Welcome back to our weekly demos. Today's going to be a little bit different. So in class, I am learning about values with paint. Last year we learned about charcoal. Well, we did everything in charcoal and graphite. We learned about values through those mediums. But this year we're learning about values of light with paint. And it's applied differently than it would be with charcoal or graphite. A lot of the times with graphite, you're adding material to make things darker, so a lot of it is just an additive thing. With charcoal, you're adding and taking away, and it's a bit more of a push and pull with charcoal. And it's similar with painting. One thing that our teachers tell us to do to better understand these values is to create a value scale. So today, we're going to go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to draw out a little value scale. One of our teachers suggests using a 6-step value scale. So we're just going to start off with a nice little bar, right? I'm coming at this at a bit of an angle, so if it doesn't look straight, oh well. All right, this is our value scale. So there are 6 basic steps to a value scale. So I'm going to make 6 little squares. Now those 6 steps are going to be your highlight, your light lights, your mid lights, your dark lights, your shadows, and yes, there is something darker than your shadows, and that is known as your dark accents. So your highlight, true to its name, is the highest point of value in whatever work you're working with. Your dark accents are the things that are the absolute darkest in your work or in your painting or subject, whatever it is that you're looking at. So true to its name, dark accents tend to just be in little spots. They're not big massed areas unless your subject makes that happen. But more often than not, these are going to be your absolute darkest areas, and this is paint straight from the tube. When we consider dark accents, we consider like absolute blacks from the tube. That's as dark as you can go, because anything added to this black is going to lighten the value. I'm going to make sure that's applied well so as to not make it look any lighter. Yeah, that seems to make it look the right value. So this is the absolute darkest we're going to go in our work. And for this next value, I'm getting a new brush so that I don't taint the white. Now, if the absolute darkest value that we can go on a value scale is complete black, nothing else in it, then the opposite is true for the highest highlight, meaning that it is pure white. That is the absolute highest value you're going to get ever. That, once again, is paint straight from the tube. There's no thinner in this. There's no other paint. That is white straight from the tube. So what am I doing when I put white and black on this 6-step value scale? I'm not just understanding what the highest and lowest is when it comes to the value scale. I'm setting a range of values to work from when I do this. And setting a range will help you gauge where the midtones are. You don't have to go straight into the darkest dark and the lightest light, but when you set that range, you see the subject a lot better. So where would I go from here? I have 4 more values to work from. And how am I going to gauge those values based off what I have right now? What I like to do is whenever I have the range set of my values, I like to find the middle ground. That middle ground being a perfect 50-50 in terms of value, not in terms of paint. Because a perfect 1-to-1 ratio with white and black is not going to give you the exact halfway point of gray. So the best thing to do is to mix your white and your black until you get that center point. So I'm going to do that now. And I'm looking for something that's not too dark. It's not too light. It's right smack dab in the middle. You're never going to get something that's perfect, obviously. So I'm going to look for something that looks pretty close. And no, I'm not going to put it in the scale yet because I want to find my range a little bit. I'm thinking maybe that goes a little bit lighter. And I am looking for this value in here, my mid-light. So I'm going to add a little bit more white. I'm going to place it right next to this guy. That looks a little bit more true to mid-light here. This might be closer to a dark light here, but we still have some more experimenting to do before we actually go into that. And it's okay to get it wrong. It's okay to get it wrong because if you get it wrong, you at least know what not to do next time. That's the whole point of practice. So I'm going to dip a little bit back into black. And I'm going to see if I can create something a little bit darker than that dark light that we have there. And I sure as hell made something darker. So here we go. That right there. See, that looks like a shadow value to me. So I'm going to actually put that in here. You notice it's not... That looks a little lighter. There's not enough paint. So I'm going to go back into that. Put a little bit more. We're experimenting, remember? We're figuring this out together. That looks close. I still think that's a little too light. So I'm going to put a little bit more black in there. I'm just taking it straight from the tube and adding it to this. Because it will mix. That looks about right. Yeah. Not where I initially wanted to go, but that's okay. Because I still have at least a little bit of a range. If you notice, they're kind of close right now. I think the camera isn't really doing it justice. So I made a little bit of a mistake. That's okay. I'm going to put a little bit more white in there. And there is a little bit of a glare coming from the light. That's okay. That's okay. So this is going to be our shadow value. Let's go ahead and see if we can mix that a little bit more. That looks good. That looks good. And I'm looking at the camera. It looks like it's still really close, actually. These two are very close to each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the midlight and the light in before moving forward, or with that shadow value at least. I'm cleaning my brush a bit. Don't want too much black. And if this one is unsuccessful, we're just going to paint a new one. We're just going to keep doing this until we get it right. And you know what? We're going to keep doing it even after that. Just so we get better understanding. I think we have a pretty good value for our light. The idea behind these values is that we're going in 20% increments. So this is 0%, no black in there. It's completely white. This is going to be 20% worth of value. And that looks pretty good. That looks pretty freaking good. This value looks like it's about 20. Now I'm going to go back into my midlight. I think it should be darker. No, you know what? That's pretty good. It's pretty good. That looks about 20%, or 40%, excuse me. It might actually be too dark. It might actually be too dark. So I'm going to go back into the light, into the white actually. I'm going to put a little bit more white in that. And I'm going to compare it to this value here. That looks closer. I don't want to rush this. When you create your own value scale, you don't want to rush that. You want to attempt to get a much deeper understanding of value when you're creating your value scale. And if you need to do multiple at a time, that's fine. That is perfectly fine. I'm going to go back into my black, try to get this dark light value. Let's see if this works. That looks pretty good. Certainly lighter than this value and darker than that one. Now, these three values look a lot closer than these three values. How are we going to adjust that? For starters, I think I'm going to increase the value here by adding a little bit more white. And I'm just going to mix that with the rest of it. And that increased the value. Doing this will help you gauge the amount of paint, the amount of medium to put in and adjust your colors and your values later. And that already looks a lot better. This created enough separation to remain in the dark light value, but still be darker than this light and lighter than this shadow. And that looks like a pretty accurate value scale. So this is going to be our 0%, right? This is going to be our 20% here, our 40, our 60 in the dark light, our 80%. So we're almost at black now, and this is 100% value in here. That's the way that we're thinking of our value scale, adding 20% increments of value. And I think I want to do one more. I'm going to do one more value scale just to get a better understanding, a better gauge. The idea behind this is to get a better understanding, right? A better understanding of how to gauge our values, how to adjust our values in the long run. But this 20% increment idea can be applied to the values in between, because there is an unlimited amount of values between each of these six. From light to highlight, there's going to be incremental shifts that go all the way until you hit the whitest white. So you can split the sections or the in-betweens of these two values into 20% increments there. You can split these two values, the in-betweens, into 20% increments. And the more you do that, the broader your range becomes, because it deepens your understanding of the value scale. It allows you to see what it looks like with your own eyes. It's fine if you can't see it initially. It's completely fine if you can't see it initially. You're not supposed to. But the more you practice, the more you develop your understanding of the values, the better you will get at it. So I'm going to go ahead and draw another value scale. I'm going to bring my paint around. Look at that. There's going to be a little bit thicker scale. All right, we're going to split that in half. We're going to have another sixth. Yep. Now remember, 0% is our highlight. 20% is our light. 40% is our mid light. 60% is our dark light. 80% is our shadow. 100% is our dark accents. Our dark accent is going to be straight from the tube, straight black. And this black that I'm using is it's a warmer black. We mixed two We mixed a 2-to-1 ratio of ivory black and burnt umber. And that creates this warm tone. It really makes for some moody paintings. And that ratio goes 2 ivory black and 1 burnt umber. And I'm starting off with the dark accent because it's straight from the tube. It's the easiest thing to do. And it reveals the bottom of our value range. This is the lower extremity of our value range. Once again, straight from the tube. And then on the other side of that spectrum, the whitest we can go is absolute white. And that, again, is straight from the tube. I'm going to try my best not to get any black in there. And there's a little bit, that's fine. That titanium white is, it gets eaten really easily. It's a cooler white, has tones of blue in it. Oh, God, the black is in there. No! That's okay, it's okay, it's okay. You know, this will also really help your application of medium. Your material handling. It's very, very nice. Very smooth, methodical. Put some more, just kind of cover that up a little bit. That's our absolute highest value, our highlight. Now, the idea is not to match this value scale. The idea is to become more accurate with the second one. This may be like a good start, right? But the more we do it, the closer to 100% accuracy we want to get. You're never going to reach that 100% accuracy, but you can get damn near close. Just cleaning my brushes. Now, I'm going to start off with trying to get that midlight again. I want to try to find a 40%, right? Dip into my black, dip into my white. Looking for something in the middle, just about. I'm going to try, maybe that's a little too dark. I think this might be a little, yeah. That looks good to me. That looks pretty good to me. That looks pretty close. That looks pretty close to my eyes. So from here, since we're going from the extremes to the middle, I'm going to try to find what this dark light should be. Remember, it's got to be lighter than the shadow, but darker than the midlight. I think that looks pretty close. Maybe it's a little too light. I'm going to say that's a little too light. That looks closer. That looks a little... Yeah, that looks good. I'm not really putting any paint thinner for this. I'm just applying the paint. That looks like a pretty good mid-range of mid-light and dark light. So, when we consider our shadow, it's never going to be as dark as our darkest dark. But it's not going to be as light as our dark light either. It's got to look like a shadow, but it's also got to be lighter than our darkest dark. So I'm going to put this in here. That looks pretty black. That looks pretty black to me. So I'm going to add a little bit more white. That's too much. That's too much. All right. I am mixing on a palette here. That's far too light. You see, it's lighter than this here, and this is not, this is not what we need for our shadow. So I'm going to grab a little bit more black, and this is the process. This is the process. We're going through it together. We made an error, and we're attempting to correct it, and that is okay. It is okay to make errors. So we're gonna go back into that. See, that looks closer. I still think it's not quite there yet. I'm just gonna apply more. And this makes me think, because I'm inching closer to black right now. This makes me think that my dark light is too dark. Because finding this in between, once again, these values are a lot closer than these values are. So maybe I'm leaning a little bit dark at the moment. That shadow looks awfully close to that black. Yeah, I think this is too dark in here. So how can we correct that? Anthony, how are we supposed to correct that? Well, first things first, I'm gonna put more white in here. And there is a lot of black on my brush, but I'm still gonna try to correct this one first. Looks a little bit better. Looks a little bit better, yeah. Maybe it still needs to go a little lighter, right? So I'm gonna add a little bit more white. And I'm applying it here. I'm just gonna mix on my canvas. That way I can see the change in real time. I don't have to guesstimate from my palette. We do the same thing in color study. We mix the color on the canvas so we can see it happening and compare better. So that looks better. I'm going to increase the value of the shadow. That looks better. That looks better. But I don't think we're getting an accurate gauge. Not until we finish with, well, not finish. Not until we apply the light. So I'm going to clean my brush again. I'm going to apply the light. And getting that light in is going to give us a much better view of the range. Everything you do in art is trial and error. You're gonna have days where your trial and error just fucking sucks. It's not gonna look right, everything's falling apart, but those days are just as necessary. You will learn a lot more in failure than you will in success. That looks pretty damn light. So I'm gonna go with that. And that's very close to the gray on the canvas. What we do in school is we tone our canvases. This allows for the color to pop more. Look at that. So the way that I'm seeing this right now, these look more accurate to those 20% increments. I think I need to bring up these values again. Maybe just the dark light even. Because this is a big jump. This jump is closer than it is here, surprisingly. I think this jump is a little bit too far from what I'm seeing. So this needs to go lighter. This needs to go lighter. And maybe that would make the mid-light go lighter a little bit. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and put some more white in the dark light. That looks better to me. That looks a lot better. No, it doesn't. This looks too close now. Let's put some more white in the light. Put some more white in that. See, you're not going to get it perfect every try, you know. And that's like, there's a certain perfection to that. Because perfection isn't in the result, it's in the process. Look at that. Now, see, this jump may be close, but this jump is further. This looks pretty close to that 20%. This looks pretty close to that 20%. These two don't. So that tells me I need to make this mid-light just a little bit lighter. And I'm just going back into my brush. And you're never going to see it unless you try it. That looks better to me. Looks a lot better. Maybe darken that up just a tad bit. Bring it back down. I like doing this in real time because it's reminding me that this is all just one big push and pull. One big koi fish pond. Yin and yang. And that looks so much better now. That looks so much better. Do you see the process at work? That looks so much better. And it looks much more accurate than this one. We came into this with this already behind us, right? We tried it once. We got it pretty close. And because we tried it again with the knowledge of our failures here and successes, we applied the successes, we fixed the problems, we fixed the failures, and now this is so much closer to an accurate value scale. Hell, I might even just touch this up with a little bit more dark. You don't have to do it. You don't have to like go into it once and then forget about it. You can keep doing it. You're supposed to keep doing it. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty damn good. I'm trying to get it as close to 20% as I possibly can here. We take our time. We remember that perfection is unattainable. I'm currently in the process of finishing a book. I call this book To Stare Out a Window. And one of the lines in the book is just that. We remember that perfection is not attainable. That's pretty damn good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good, right? And that's what it's about. We trial and error. We go through the process as many times as we can to get it as close to perfect as possible. You're never going to be perfect. You are never going to be perfect. And that is okay. So my hope is that by the end of this live, by the end of this value demonstration, you get a much stronger idea of a value range. You get a better idea of how to gauge your range. And hopefully apply this to your own work. And these scales are representative of how light works, right? The closer to the source of light, the higher the value. The further away from the light, the darker the value. And when there's a complete absence of light, that's where you get your dark accents. Thank you guys for joining. My name is Anthony. I am an artist in Wilmington, Delaware. I go to school at an art atelier for realism known as Studio Incaminati in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you stuck around, thank you. I appreciate you and I love you. Have a great day.